Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into a modern playbook for diversity, equity, and inclusion. We're going to show you how to flip DEI from just another corporate checkbox into what could be your most powerful competitive advantage. And we'll do it by using some powerful lessons from the past to solve the big challenges of right now. So let's start with a kind of surprising question. What can a car entrepreneur from the last century possibly teach a tech company today about something like artificial intelligence? Well, it turns out a lot. This question connects a classic story of exclusion to the really urgent challenges businesses are facing today, everything from biased AI to digital accessibility. You see, the barriers might look different, but the core principles for success, they're absolutely timeless. Okay, let's get into it. So, our story kicks off with this really ambitious entrepreneur from an indigenous American community. They looked at the luxury car market and saw this massive blind spot, an entire community of potential customers who were being completely ignored and, let's be honest, disrespected. And for them, this quote wasn't just some nice-sounding motto. No, it was a belief that came straight from real, lived experience. This entrepreneur saw an entire industry that just failed to see their community's culture, their influence, and, their spending power. Inclusion was treated like some kind of afterthought, not a core business strategy. So, as you can imagine, the path forward was just littered with roadblocks. We're talking about banks turning down loans based on prejudice, not the business plan. We're talking about a customer experience where, from the moment you walked on the showroom floor, everything was built on this profound lack of cultural understanding. Okay, now this is where it gets really interesting. Those old barriers, they haven't just disappeared. They've just shape-shifted. The loan officer's personal bias is now coded directly into an AI lending algorithm. Being physically excluded from a store is now an inaccessible website or app. And that manager who overlooks talent in an interview, well, now they've got a flawed AI recruiting tool doing the exact same thing, but at a massive scale. And that evolution, well, it brings us right into today's world. It forces us to ask a really tough question. Who are we unintentionally building these new digital walls against? Who are we missing today? Today's market isn't one single group. It's this incredible mosaic. We're talking about diverse ethnic communities, neurodiverse individuals, people from all sorts of economic social backgrounds, and a huge, powerful segment of the population that is so often overlooked. The disabled community. Just let that number sink in for a second. 1 in 4 adults. So when we talk about modern compliance challenges like meeting web content accessibility guidelines, this isn't just about trying to avoid a lawsuit. It's about opening the door to a gigantic customer base and an incredible pool of talent that way too many companies are just leaving on the table. So here's the bottom line. Your website, your mobile app, the software your own employees have to use every single day, that's your new front door. And if it's not built to be universally accessible, you are actively locking out a quarter of your potential market and your potential workforce. It's that simple. But look, this is so much bigger than just avoiding problems. It's about grabbing a huge opportunity. So let's see how building for inclusion actually creates a powerful competitive edge. We'll compare our entrepreneur's original approach with a modern global company that's getting it right. And this table just breaks it down perfectly. The entrepreneur built their success through that personal, cultural connection. A modern company like Blackmores takes that same spirit and scales it globally. How? They use ethical AI to understand diverse markets, and they build universal design right into their products, like making sure packaging is easy to open for someone with dexterity issues. They use data to develop their workforce, and they see what they call cultural fitness as the key to unlocking innovation across 16 different global markets. This right here is the secret weapon. When you start designing for accessibility, you almost always end up making a better product for absolutely everyone. I mean, think about curb cuts on sidewalks. They were designed for wheelchairs, but every parent with a stroller loves them. Or high contrast mode on your phone. It's essential for some people, but it's super helpful for anyone trying to see their screen in bright sunlight. Compliance stops being a chore and becomes a driver for real innovation. Okay, so how do you actually build this kind of advantage? Well, it's not about some one-off program. It's about having a strategic toolkit, and that toolkit is built on 3 essential investments. First, you have to invest in what our source calls cultural fitness. That means ongoing learning, not a single diversity training day. Second, you've got to pop the hood on your AI. Really dig in and audit those algorithms. Look at the data they were trained on and find the hidden biases before they cause real harm. And third, you have to embrace accessible design from day one, from the very beginning of product development, not as some final checkbox before you ship. Now let's look at the flip side. What happens when you don't make these investments? Let's take a story from our source material and bring it into today's tech-heavy workplace. So picture this. You've got a top performer in your company. Their reviews are perfect, their results are stellar, and they have deep connections in their community. But their manager just finds their direct, get-to-the-point communication style a little confronting. It's a classic case of cultural misunderstanding. And here comes the modern twist. The company uses an AI tool to suggest who should lead big projects. But that AI was trained on years and years of data reflecting the company's old biases. So the AI learns that people who communicate like our top performer, well, they just don't get chosen for these roles. So it stops recommending them. The manager's bias just became automated, invisible, and scaled across the whole company. So what do you think happens next? Of course, the employee, feeling totally undervalued and invisible, eventually leaves. And they take all of their talent, their amazing ideas, and their invaluable community insights right over to a competitor who actually gets it, who actually values what they bring to the table. The cost here is so much more than just finding a replacement. I mean, that's the smallest bar on this chart. The real damage is in the lost productivity, and here's the killer, the massive innovation drain. You didn't just lose an employee, you lost a future leader and all the market advantages they would have created. It's a quiet but absolutely devastating financial hit. So, after going through all this, the history, the modern challenges, the really high stakes, what is the big takeaway from this explainer for any leader watching right now? It really all comes down to this idea of cultural fitness, which is inspired by the work at companies like Blackmores. Look, this isn't about hitting diversity quotas. It's about building an entire ecosystem, a culture where every single perspective is genuinely heard and woven into the very fabric of how you do business. The message here is crystal clear. This is not a let's wait and see kind of thing. Every single day that you put this off, the market is changing and you're falling further and further behind. Being proactive about building an inclusive organization is maybe the most powerful strategy you have to stay agile and relevant. And all of this leaves us with one final critical question to think about. Are the systems you're building right now, your tech, your culture, your teams, are they reflecting a world that doesn't really exist anymore? Or are you actively and intentionally designing an organization that's accessible, that's equitable, and that's intelligent enough to lead us into the future? The choice and the advantage is yours.